Welcome everyone, this is the first of two videos I'm going to do showing off my AI system that I'm hoping to get up on the marketplace. So this first one is actually just going to be a run through of how to do a kind of proper animation blueprint setup, just because the AI kind of relies on having a basic animation blueprint setup. And I'm kind of just going to use a general asset pulled from the marketplace, but the point essentially is to try and show that you can use this AI setup with anything. So it's scalable, it's easy to use, and it's very easy to extend from. So I've just quickly popped in I've picked the low poly skeleton pack, which is a pack I picked up a while ago. It's really nice, but it doesn't have any of the animation blueprint setup that we'll need, so we'll just very, very quickly set that up. And then in the next video, I'll cover how to integrate it with the AI. So very quickly, we're going to quickly set these to montages. And the reason we want this as montages is just because generally when you attack, you're going to want to be doing other things as well, probably moving, running, jumping, or some kind of more general base state. So it's hard to talk about something while I'm typing. But these we'll need as montages, which again, you should generally have naming conventions. Oh well. So we'll quickly come into montage and just plot this here, new slot, upper body, save that, and swap over to it. So there's a bunch of tutorials which show kind of more in detail and explain as they go everything that I'm doing here, so I won't try and copy them because they do it much better. And I'm not primarily an animator, but it does require a proper setup. So we have those 4 montages, and the only other thing we want is a blend space, just for the movement. So we're using the warrior, so we'll come down to the warrior blend space. So what we want for this, and again, there's been some really fantastic tutorials on how to set these up, so I won't try and do that, but very quickly we've got direction and speed. 4x4 is fine. So these are the 2 sets of parameters. So we have these animations here. So walk we'll put here, idle, if our speed's 0, I don't really care what direction we're facing. If our speed's 0, we should idle, so I'm just going to go idle across the board on the bottom here. And now this direction from -180 to +180, -180 and +180, obviously in a 360-degree circle, are the same thing, so they are actually back behind you. So this kind of wraps back around, so that's forwards, and then that's backwards, but we do have a strafe left and a strafe right. So now we've got kind of from idle, blending forwards to a walk, blending to strafing, and then blending back, and then from the other side, left and center. So that's kind of the gist of how this is set up. I'm going to chuck a run at the top there, and then again, we'll blend into a strafe on both of those, and into a back pedal here, which is just a pretty stock standard animation mock-up, basically. Sorry, a blend space. So with that done, I think that's pretty quick, hopefully I didn't miss anything, but we'll open up the animation blueprint itself. So again, I'm just going to use kind of a stock standard setup, so just not playing idle constantly. State machine, I'll just call out locomotion. And what we're actually going to do, probably out of order, but cache there for that. So the locomotion gets one state, which we're just going to call lazily movement, or I am rather. And then the asset browser going to whip out that blend space and plug it into that movement. So just quickly while we're in here, I'll grab a direction as a float, and speed as a float. So we'll need to get information from the pawn itself to populate these 2 variables, which will then feed into the blend space. So backing out of that, backing out of that. We now have that. Use cached position. That's the one slot. And blend per bone. So I have rushed through this, but really quickly what this setup is doing is this cache position coming out of the locomotion is our general movement, so that's our idle, walk and run. This on top of it, so whenever there's some data in here, it'll basically, so upper body, so whenever those attack montages come in, they'll play the attack montages kind of on top of that base movement, which is what we want. So last thing we need to do is just in this layer setup, we actually need to set, so a bone name beneath what bone we're classing as upper body. So if we come back here, so hips is the root, left leg, right leg, spine. So character 1 underscore spine. We don't want to affect the 2 legs, but everything above the legs probably for when he attacks we'll keep, and then just the legs from the movement. So character 1 underscore spine. And blend depth we set to 1, and we check that. So that's our setup for the animation graph. Now we come across to where we actually want to populate the data from. Do a quick is valid check just to make sure that we're not trying to run this when we don't have the data. And then we're going to want 2 core things. We're going to want our velocity and our rotation. So with our velocity, primarily what we want for the speed is the velocity's length. So that kind of indicates what speed you're going, so irrespective of direction, and then we've got this lovely calculate direction function, thank you Epic, where we can just plug in the character's velocity and their rotation, and it will actually find for us from -180 to +180, which is what, if you remember, I set up in the blend space, because this function spits it out like that. So that is now pulling functionally on tick. When our pawn's valid, we'll get its velocity's length, which is our speed, and then we'll use our velocity and our rotation to calculate the direction and store that as our direction. So that's the Anim blueprint setup really quick, and that's the first part of the tutorial. So next I'm going to show how easy it is once you have a character set up like that to just drag this AI in and have it working.